bullet had gone clean through. That should have been good news, but Eli Ward knew better. The hole in his side meant blood loss, infection, and a slow death if he didn't find shelter soon. Behind him, smoke rose from the canyon where the ambush had failed. 3 soldiers dead, 2 of his men scattered or worse. And now the Apache scouts would be tracking the gunfire. He pressed his hand against the wound and kept riding. The Arizona hills burned gold in the late afternoon sun. Eli's vision blurred at the edges, his breathing shallow. The horse beneath him sensed his weakness and slowed, picking its way down a rocky slope toward a creek bed hidden in shadow. This was Apache land, dangerous territory even without a bullet wound. But danger had become the only constant in Eli's life since the army branded him a deserter and the outlaws he'd joined proved just as rotten. The creek appeared through a break in the rocks. Cool water, sparse cottonwoods, the promise of cover. Eli slid from his horse and nearly collapsed. His boots hit loose stones, and that's when he saw her. A woman, Apache, face down near the water's edge. Eli's hand went to his revolver by instinct. Then he saw the dead horse 20 feet upstream, its neck twisted at an impossible angle. A fall. She'd been thrown. He should have kept riding. Every logical part of his brain screamed at him to leave her, to save himself, to not add another complication to a life already drowning in bad choices. But his legs carried him forward anyway, old reflexes from a different version of himself taking over. She was breathing, unconscious but alive. A gash across her temple bled into her black hair. Her buckskin dress was torn at the shoulder, and her left arm lay at an unnatural angle. Mid-20s, maybe. Strong features, the kind of face that commanded attention even in unconsciousness. Eli looked back at the hills. No movement yet, but they'd come. He made his decision in the space between heartbeats. Getting her to the cave system he'd scouted 2 days prior nearly killed them both. Eli's wound reopened as he carried her, his blood mixing with hers on the canyon floor. The cave sat a quarter-mile north, hidden behind a rockfall that most riders would miss. He'd used them before, back when he thought he could outrun his past by hiding in the bones of the earth. Inside, the temperature dropped 15 degrees. Eli laid her on his bedroll and collapsed against the stone wall, breathing hard. His vision swam. The world tilted sideways. No, not yet. He forced himself to move. Water first, then the wounds. His hands shook as he cleaned the gash on her head. The battlefield training came back in fragments. Pressure. Cloth. Keep it clean. Her arm was dislocated, not broken. He'd seen it a dozen times during the war. The reset would hurt, but she was still unconscious. Better now than later. He braced her shoulder and pulled. The pop echoed in the cave. She gasped but didn't wake. Eli bound her arm against her chest and turned to his own wound. The bleeding had slowed but not stopped. He packed it with moss from the creek and wrapped it tight, biting down on leather to keep from screaming. When he finished, he sat in the gathering darkness and waited to see which of them would die first. She woke near midnight. Eli heard the change in her breathing before her eyes opened. He sat 10 feet away, revolver in his lap, watching. When her gaze found him in the dim firelight, there was no panic, just calculation. "Water," she said. Her voice carried authority despite her condition. Eli handed her the canteen. She drank slowly, never taking her eyes off him. When she lowered it, she spoke again. "You're the one they're hunting." Not a question, a statement. Eli nodded. "Why did you help me?" He had no good answer for that. Seemed like the thing to do. She studied him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. Her dark eyes cataloged everything. The wound in his side, the way he favored his left arm, the lines of exhaustion carved into his face. She was reading him the way a scout reads tracks, and Eli had the distinct feeling he was failing some test he didn't know he was taking. "My name is Tessa," she said finally. "Eli, you're bleeding, Eli. I know. If you die, I die. The scouts won't find me here." It was practical, not sympathetic. Eli appreciated that. If the scouts find us, we both die anyway. Then we have common ground. Over the next 2 days, they learned to coexist in the cave's confines. Tessa's arm remained bound, but her head wound closed quickly. She was stronger than Eli had expected, moving with purpose despite the pain. She gathered herbs from the creek at dawn, made poultices that eased his fever, and spoke rarely but with precision. Eli's wound festered on the second night. The fever came in waves, dragging him under into dreams of gunfire and screaming. He woke to find Tessa pressing cool cloth against his forehead, her face impassive. "You talk in your sleep," she said. "About what?" "Death. Betrayal. A captain named Morrison." Eli closed his eyes. Captain James Morrison, the man who'd ordered the raid on the Apache camp. The man who'd framed Eli for stealing weapons when Eli refused to participate in the massacre. The man who'd made him a wanted fugitive and pushed him into the arms of criminals just as corrupt. "He's the reason you ran," Tessa said. "He's one reason. And the others?" Eli sat up slowly, his side screaming in protest. "I've killed 17 men. Some deserved it. Some didn't. I can't tell the difference anymore." Tessa was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "My people are preparing for war. The soldiers raided our winter camp 3 weeks ago, killed the elders who couldn't run, burned our food stores. My father believes negotiation is finished." "Your father?" "Chief Nantan." The name hit Eli like a second bullet. He'd heard it spoken in whispers around outlaw fires. The Apache chief who'd united 3 bands. The strategist who'd turned the hills into a graveyard for cavalry units. The man whose fury was legendary. "You're his daughter." Tessa met his eyes without flinching. "Yes. And you didn't think to mention that before now? Would it have changed anything?" Eli wanted to lie, but the words wouldn't come. "No." Then it didn't matter. But it did matter. It mattered because Chief Nantan's scouts would be hunting twice as hard for her. It mattered because the price on Eli's head would seem trivial compared to the justice Nantan would demand if he thought a white outlaw had harmed his daughter. It mattered because Eli had just realized he was holding the only piece that could end the coming war or make it infinitely worse. "They're close," she said without turning. "I saw smoke signals yesterday. How long do we have? A day? Maybe less." Eli forced himself to stand. His legs shook but held. "Then we need to move." "Where?" "There's a box canyon 6 miles west. Narrow entrance, good sight lines. We can defend it if we have to." Tessa had turned to look at him. "Or we could go to my people. They'll kill me on sight." "Perhaps. Or perhaps they'll listen." "To what? An outlaw who kidnapped the chief's daughter?" "To the outlaw who saved her life when he could have left her to die." Tessa stood, wincing as her arms shifted. "You think you're beyond redemption, Eli Ward. You've decided your story ends in blood. But my father didn't become chief by being predictable. He became chief by being wise. Wisdom and mercy aren't the same thing." "No. But they often walk together." They left the cave at midday, moving slowly through terrain that offered cover but little speed. Eli's wound had closed, but the infection had taken its strength. He leaned on his rifle like a cane, and twice Tessa had to steady him when his vision blurred. The afternoon heat pressed down like a physical weight. They stopped to rest in the shadow of a red rock formation, and that's when Eli saw the rider. A single Apache scout, maybe a quarter-mile north, moving parallel to their position. He hadn't spotted them yet, but it was only a matter of time. "He's tracking us," Tessa said. "Can you signal him?" "If I do, he'll report back that you're with me. My father's warriors will come in force. And if you don't, he'll assume I'm still in danger. The result will be the same." Eli watched the scout disappear behind an outcropping. His hand tightened on the rifle. He could try to pick the man off from this distance, but the shot would echo for miles. Every Apache within 10 miles would converge on their position. "Let him see us," Eli said. "Are you certain? Your father needs to know you're alive. And I need to face what's coming." Tessa studied him for a long moment, then nodded. She stood and raised her good arm, making a series of gestures that Eli didn't understand. The scout reappeared on a ridgeline 200 yards away. Even from this distance, Eli could see the moment the man recognized Tessa. The scout raised his rifle skyward and fired twice. "Signal shots." "It's done," Tessa said quietly. They reached the Apache camp at sunset. It materialized from the desert like a mirage. Wiki-ups arranged in a defensive circle. Cook fires sending thin streams of smoke into the orange sky. Warriors moving between the structures with the efficiency of people who'd learned to pack their lives into what they could carry. Eli rode in unarmed, his hands visible, Tessa beside him on his horse. Warriors emerged from every direction, rifles raised. Eli counted at least 20 guns pointed at his chest before he stopped counting. A man stepped forward from the largest wiki-up. Chief Nantan. He was shorter than Eli had imagined, but carried himself with the presence of someone twice his size. 50, maybe older, with gray streaking his black hair and lines carved deep around his eyes. Those eyes found his daughter first, scanning her for injuries. Then they shifted to Eli, and the temperature seemed to drop. Tessa slid from the horse and walked to her father. They spoke in rapid Apache, her gestures animated, his face impassive. The warriors hadn't lowered their weapons. Eli kept his hands on the saddle horn and waited to die. The conversation lasted 5 minutes. Then Nantan raised his hand, and the warriors lowered their rifles. Not holstered, not put away, just lowered enough to suggest Eli might live through the next few minutes. Nantan approached him. Up close, Eli could see the intelligence in those dark eyes, the weight of decisions made and lives spent. My daughter says you saved her life. Eli nodded. Yes. She says you are the man the soldiers are hunting, the one who attacked their convoy. Yes. She says you are also the man who refused to participate in the raid on our winter camp, the man who tried to warn us and was branded a deserter for it. Eli blinked. He hadn't told Tessa that part. How did you? We have eyes in many places, Nantan said, even among the soldiers. Your Captain Morrison is not loved by all his men. The chief circled Eli's horse slowly, his gaze never leaving Eli's face. You have killed my people. You have brought soldiers into our lands. You have spilled blood in places that were sacred. Give me one reason why I should not cut you down where you sit. Eli had prepared for this moment. He'd rehearsed speeches in his head during the long ride. But now, faced with Nantan's unwavering stare, all the words felt hollow. So he told the truth instead. I can't. Every crime you name is real. I've spent 3 years running from what I am, and all I've done is become something worse. I saved your daughter because it was the first good thing I'd done in so long I'd forgotten what it felt like. If you want justice, take it. I'm done running. Silence fell over the camp. Somewhere, a child laughed. A horse nickered. But among the warriors, no one moved. Nantan stopped in front of Eli. You offer me your life freely? I offer you peace. My life is part of that if it has to be. Peace. Nantan spoke the word like he was tasting something bitter. The soldiers offer us peace while burning our homes. The settlers offer us peace while stealing our water. Why should I believe your peace is different? Because I'm not offering you words. I'm offering you a choice. Kill me, and Morrison gets what he wants. Another dead outlaw to parade as a victory. Another excuse to push harder into your lands. Let me live, and I'll testify against him. I'll tell the territorial judge about the stolen weapons, the falsified reports, the massacre he ordered. I'll burn his career to the ground. And why would a judge believe an outlaw? Because I kept records. Names, dates, orders. Everything Morrison tried to hide. It's buried in a canyon 10 miles from here. With it, you'll have proof that could stop the war before it starts. Nantan's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his posture. And if I let you live, you expect gratitude? A place among us? No. I expect exile. I expect to ride out of here and never come back. I expect to spend whatever time I have left trying to undo a fraction of the damage I've caused. But I need to know Tessa is safe first. That's all. The chief looked at his daughter. Some unspoken communication passed between them. Then Nantan turned back to Eli. Dismount. Eli obeyed, his legs nearly buckling when they hit the ground. A warrior stepped forward and took his horse. Another collected his rifle and knife, leaving him defenseless. Nantan spoke in Apache, and 3 warriors moved toward the wickiup. They emerged carrying strips of dried meat, a water skin, and a blanket. These were placed at Eli's feet. You will leave at dawn, Nantan said. You will ride north, away from our lands. If you return, you will be killed. If you speak of our location, you will be hunted. But you will take with you the knowledge that you kept your word once. Perhaps that is enough to build a different life. Eli picked up the supplies with shaking hands. Thank you. Do not thank me. Thank my daughter. She believes you are worth more alive than dead. I am trusting her judgment. Nantan's eyes hardened. Do not make me regret it. That night, Eli slept at the edge of the camp, neither prisoner nor guest. The stars wheeled overhead in their ancient patterns. Somewhere in the darkness, a scout kept watch. Eli wondered if the rifle was pointed at him or outward toward other threats. Near midnight, footsteps approached. Tessa sat down beside him, her arms still bound, but moving more easily now. You're leaving at first light, she said. Your father made that clear. Good. This land isn't safe for you. It never will be. They sat in silence for a while. Then Tessa said, What will you do? After you give the records to the judge? I don't know. Find work somewhere. Try to stay alive long enough to see if Morrison faces justice. And if he doesn't, Then at least I tried. Tessa nodded slowly. That's more than most men can say. Eli looked at her profile in the starlight. Why did you defend me? You could have let your father execute me and solved the problem. Because you proved something I needed to see. What's that? That not all white men are Captain Morrison. That some still remember honor exists. She stood, brushing dust from her dress. That's a small thing, but in times like these, small things matter. She walked away before Eli could respond, disappearing into the shadows between wiki-ups. Eli lay back and stared at the sky until exhaustion pulled him under. Dawn came too quickly. The camp stirred around him as Eli saddled the horse they'd provided. Better than his old mount, he noticed. Faster. They were giving him a chance to outrun whatever came next. Chief Nantan appeared as Eli prepared to leave. He handed Eli a folded piece of cloth. Inside were 3 golden eagle feathers. Show these if you encounter our scouts, Nantan said. They will know you have been judged and released. It may save your life once. Do not expect it to work twice. Eli tucked the feathers carefully into his shirt. I'll use them wisely. See that you do. Nantan stepped back. And Eli Ward, if you succeed in bringing down Captain Morrison, send word. Let us know that justice still exists somewhere in this broken world. I will. Eli rode north as the sun broke over the hills. He didn't look back. Behind him, the Apache camp would be packed and moved by noon, leaving no trace of their presence. Ahead lay desert, danger, and a choice he'd made to finally face the consequences of his past. The wound in his side ached with each step the horse took. The supplies would last maybe 3 days. The records he'd promised Nantan were real, but getting to them meant crossing back into territory where every lawman and bounty hunter in Arizona wanted him dead. But Eli Ward rode anyway, carrying 3 golden feathers and the weight of a second chance he hadn't earned but would die trying to deserve. In the hills behind him, Tessa watched from a high ridge until he disappeared into the heat shimmer. Then she turned back to help her people prepare for whatever came next. The war wasn't over. The soldiers would still come. But for one morning at least, justice had found a foothold in the desert, and that was enough to kindle hope. The story of the outlaw and the chief's daughter would spread through both worlds. Among the Apache, it would become a reminder that mercy could be strength. Among the settlers, it would be dismissed as myth. But for those who lived it, the truth remained. Redemption was always possible, even in the burning hills where blood and honor met under an endless sky.